I'd like to call the meeting to order for Monday, June 15th, 2015. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman Terry Glover will lead us in prayer.
Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we want to pause at this time to remember the blessings that we've been given and we take for granted each day. We want to thank you for those that help us with these blessings and keep us safe, from the police to the fire department to the rescue squads and the leaders of this community as they make decisions that affect each of us. We're free to attend what church or go where we please because they give us our freedom. Lord, be with those that are meeting challenges today, those that are physically ill or those that just have challenges within their families. And be with our leaders in the nation, the national leaders, as we fight the ISIS and all of the groups that are trying to grab our freedoms away from us. Be with us and guide us and keep us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Glover. Next item on the agenda is a roll call. Please show all present here tonight, Mr. Recorder. Next item on the agenda will be approval of minutes from June 1st, 2015. Entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Motion from Carolyn Norman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Robert Taylor. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next item, unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business? Under new business, notice of public hearing will be held July 6, 2015 for the purpose of discussing the City of Dyersburg 2015-2016 budget. So this is our first notice of that public hearing, which will be held our next board meeting July 6, 2015.
Will we have the budget ready by then, Mayor?
Yes, sir. According to Steve Anderson, we will.
Okay, Steve, thank you.
Next item on the agenda, attorney invoice that was attached to your packet, the amount of $4,518.75. I would entertain a motion to approve the attorney.
So move we approve.
A motion from Bob Kirk. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mike Morgan. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next item, bids. Greg Williams.
I have several bids tonight that are open purchase orders that will be contingent on passage of the 15-16 budget. But I'd like to go ahead and get these approved so that they can go in effect as soon as that is passed. First being for the street department, it's an open purchase order for the upcoming year for concrete of various projects requiring concrete less than 20 yards. This is a budgeted item. Notification was given through the State Gazette and direct to 2 vendors. You can see the various pricing there by the yardage. So I recommend awarding the bid to Fork and Lanham Concrete for $30,000.
Further recommendation, entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Motion from Kevin Chaney, second.
Second.
Second from Bill Eskew. Any discussion?
That take care of us for the year, Greg?
Yes.
Pretty much. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Next item is for the solid waste department. It's for tires for the larger route trucks and dumpster trucks. This is also a budgeted item. Notification was given through the State Gazette and direct to 2 vendors. I had a sole response of $29,156, so I recommend awarding the bid to T Enterprises of Dyersburg.
You've heard the recommendation. Entertain a motion to approve this.
So move.
A motion from Bob Kirk, second.
Second.
Second from Mike Morgan. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Next item is for the water plant, the wastewater plant, and the recreation department for the pools. 117,000 gallons of liquid chlorine bleach. This was budgeted in their respective budgets, advertised in the State Gazette and direct to 3 vendors. The bids range from $115,830 to $85,644. So I recommend awarding the bid to Harcross Chemical of Memphis for $85,644.
You've heard the recommendation. Entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Motion from Terry Glover, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Carolyn Norman, any discussion?
Is that about what we're spending now, Greg, about approximately?
It's about 0.5% less than what we paid last year. This is our current vendor.
What the current?
So it actually went down.
Thank you.
The purchase of those together, that saves quite a bit of money, doesn't it?
Yes.
Didn't they do that a few years ago?
Yes, especially for the pools.
Any other questions? Have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Next item is for the water plant for various lab supplies to be ordered as needed. It's an open purchase order. This is included in their budget as well. And I recommend awarding the bid to IDEX Laboratories, as they are the sole source of the supplies that we use, for $20,000.
You've heard the recommendation, entertain a motion to approve this. Motion from Kevin Chaney, second from Mike Morgan. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Next item is for the EOC. It's the maintenance agreement for the radio backbone and dispatch consoles. It is a sole source, and I recommend awarding the bid to Motorola for $25,064.64.
Further recommendation, entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Motion from Bob Kirk, second.
Second.
Second from Terry Glover. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Final item I have is for the street department for highway salt, and it will be included in their budget as well. There was no notification, as this is a state contract from the state of Tennessee, so I recommend awarding the bid to Compass Minerals, Overland Park, Kansas, $36,000.
Further recommendation, entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Motion from Bill Eskew, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Dennis Moody, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next item of the agenda, Greg will address this also, purchase of property. Greg?
The item I have tonight is the purchase of a piece of property that is adjacent to the Public Works Complex. It's approximately 3 acres and contains a building that's about 7,400 square feet. Of that, 1,400 is office space, 6,000 is for the warehouse. And since we lost the buildings down at the where the farmer's market is now, we've been short on storage space. And this gives us an opportunity, one, to buy that storage space, but two, to kind of control what, I guess, neighbors we have with the Public Works Complex. So we would own all the property on both sides of Honeydew Lane from the bypass back to the wastewater plant. So we've had an appraisal done, we've had an environmental study done, everything came back good. So we have negotiated a price of $212,500. This would be taken out of the gas fund as their operations would be moved into the new building.
Greg, I noticed that in the information that was sent to us that an extensive environmental study was done on that property because it had been occupied at some point in time by chemical companies. You feel comfortable with the study that was made?
I do, and the only reason that we had that done is because it was at one time an agricultural chemical company, and we just didn't want anything to come back, and nothing came back negative that would require further study.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, did they do core drills or?
They did not. That was just a phase
Was
one.
there anything that can come back later then?
They just did they checked with the EPA, previous owners, the previous,
Would there be any reason for them to come back, I guess? Is what
I can't say that, but there's no red flags that would cause them to come back that was found. We just didn't want it to be a Superfund site or something like that, and it came back negative, so.
Yeah, and we need the space, as I understand. We're limited down there now, is that correct?
That is correct. That will also allow us some additional storage space for our big wash trucks that we need to keep inside from the weather.
How soon can we close on it?
He's got in the purchase contract, he would have 90 days after board approval to close, to get out there and vacate the building.
To vacate it and clean the property up.
That's correct.
Clean it up, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
How much renovations?
Well, depending on what shape it's in, we get it. It's not the best of shape. It will take some renovation in the front. I would guess probably 30 to 50,000 to get it, in perfect shape. So I guess it all depends on how far we take it.
Will that also come from the gas fund for renovations? Okay.
How much is an acre to, how?
3 acres.
3 acres, okay, thank
It goes from the bypass all the way back to the curb of that road,
you. Yeah.
all adjacent to the railroad.
Any other questions?
Okay.
I would entertain a motion to approve the purchase of this property by the city of Dyersburg.
So moved.
Motion from Carolyn Norman, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Kevin Chaney. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Next on the agenda, Chamber of Commerce 2015-2016 TED budget and economic development update. Alan Hester and Jimmy Williamson.
Good evening. I appreciate you having Alan and I on the agenda tonight. We've got a couple of items that we need you to consider and vote on. The first item is review and approval of the 2015-2016 TED Commission budget. And the next item is the reaffirming the contractual agreement between the Chamber and the city for the Chamber to use the motel hotel tax to promote tourism and economic development in the community. But before we ask you to consider these and vote on them, I'd like to ask Alan Hester to come and give you an overview of the initiative that the Chamber has undertaken this past year on tourism and economic development. Alan?
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Mayor. I brought a few props. I hope you'll bear with me, but I'll try to get through this in orderly fashion and give you an overview of what we've been doing and update on some things we have accomplished this past year, and hope you'll find it favorable and to your liking. First thing, I've already given you a handout or two. The Destination magazine, we just got these in today. This is our partnership with the State Gazette to produce the lifestyle magazine for the community. And of course, we use local photographers for our Shoot Dyer County photo contest, the photo club we started several years ago. And by the way, I'm joined tonight by several of our vice chairs. David Hayes is here, Paul Carson's here from our board, Tammy Hall and Steve Guttery from our staff. So just want to recognize them, thank them for being here. In your packet, there's a number of pieces of information, most of it pretty self-explanatory. I won't go through all of it, but I also wanted to call your attention to this new brochure on the left-hand side of your packet that says Shop, Dine, Stay, Enjoy. I think this is also brand new and one of the best pieces we've done recently to highlight what there is available in the area on the tourism side, and I'll get to that in a little bit. The report that I've got printed for you, it says report to the Dyersburg Board of Mayor and Alderman. I think spend a minute or two talking about the rankings that we got. Site Selection Magazine is a magazine, a national publication that we advertise in sometimes and have for many years, but it's the leading publication nationwide for economic development. And every year they rank the top micropolitan areas in the country. Now, we've been in the rankings before, and we've been fairly highly ranked before, and we've been #1 in West Tennessee a number of times over the years. But this past year, on the strength of our existing industry and the expansion of existing industry primarily, we were ranked #1 in the state of Tennessee and tied for 8th place nationwide in Site Selection Magazine among the micropolitan areas. That's the highest ranking we've ever had. In addition to that, this past year, we also were awarded this trophy and this award that they call the Big Muddy Cup, which has to do with the corridor of the Mississippi River. Communities, states on either side of the river, from Minnesota, from the Canadian border to the Gulf, were assessed based on their economic development success on a per capita basis. So even though we're a fairly small community compared to some of the others, on a per capita basis, we were declared the winner of the Big Muddy Cup, which was a nice surprise for all of us, and I brought it with me just to show you I wasn't making this up. Now, the rest of the report, I've got a list here of the ribbon cuttings since last July the 1st, the membership events, so there's the 28 ribbon cuttings, 27 membership events, so there's another 8 of them already scheduled. The farmers market and the Main Street activities, Steve Guttery takes care of that along with several other important things for us, and Steve's got a great program going on. He's statewide now recognized for his work in Main Street and farmers market. I mentioned site selection. We do the print ads in business facilities, area development. We do direct mail. On the tourism side, we put up some billboards a while back that was this theme that says, shop, dine, stay, enjoy. And what we're trying to do with the brochure, with our website information, we did this little single sheet, and this goes to all the hotels in town. So if you've got a person coming in that says, well, they tell us, the managers say to us, well, the first thing people say is, where can I get something to eat? And the second thing is, what is there to do around here? And so this sheet is intended to capture that very easily. And they can fold it and stick it in their pocket or purse and have a single sheet to refer to. Of course, we do the maps that you see, a copy of the new map in there and so on. There's a copy of an article in here that was in Site Selection magazine called Feels Like Home to Me. You'll see it down in there on the right-hand side. That is a feature story about this area and about what goes on here and why we're able to have the success that we've had. And that's something that, you know, you can't buy in an advertisement when they write about you and say good things. That's a fortunate occurrence. I mentioned our website's been overhauled and updated. I've got a list here of some of the recent conferences we've been to, some of the ones coming up. On the tourism side, I think we've really stepped up our tourism game in recent years. We're doing more with sponsoring and promoting local events than we've done in the past, and hopefully these printed materials will reinforce that. But everything from the basketball tournaments to the Duck Fest, the Duck Blast, the Halls Air Show, we even do things out of county that benefit us. And the thing about the attractions that we've tried to capture in this brochure, simply to reflect all the things that are going on now that just a few years ago didn't exist here, such as Full Throttle Distillery, Discovery Park, some of these other things, the Bikini Bottoms and the zip line and all that sort of thing. Those are new things in our area, and so we've tried to capture all that in these pieces of information so that people can see what there is to do around here and things to enjoy. Now, very quickly on the economic development side, we've had about 10 inquiries so far this year on industrial development. We are a finalist for one that actually dates back to last year. They are looking at the site behind Dot Foods, which is a 40-acre site, as y'all know. We're a finalist in that hunt, and there's at least 2 others still in the hunt. The project got modified a little bit because the company in question had a slowdown in some of their orders for their products. And so they backed up a little bit, but it's still very much a live project, and we're still pursuing it. We submitted a new one today that's a food processor project. So we've got prospect activity out there. There's another sheet in there that I'll call your attention to, and then I'll ask if you have any questions. And that's this sheet right here that is a roundup of the last 3 years, 2012, 13, and 14. And as you'll see, in our economic development efforts as a chamber, we always set goals. And we try to measure how well we do against our goals. And I think it's important for all of you who are investors, be it public or private, that you know what our goals are and see how well we do from year to year. And so you can see out of these 7 goals that we had, I think we hit 4 of them out of the park, and then 2 of them we almost made our goal, and then 1 of them we still lack, and that is to sell the spec building. But the spec building, just like it's doing now, has drawn a lot of interest to the area, and that's one of the primary functions of it, is to bring interest and to bring people to the community. Whereas they might not want the spec building, they end up looking around at other pieces of property, and that has happened to us in the past. Dot Foods being one example of how that can work. So We've had a lot of success with existing industry. I'm really proud of what our existing industry people have done because they've come through the recession, they've come through a tough period the last 5 years, and now they're really kind of getting back on their feet, more hiring than ever than we've seen in several years. Unemployment's down and still trending downward. It's not quite as low as we'd like to see it, but it's getting there. And so I think overall we've got a strong program. We've got a great partnership with the city, and I hope you'll see fit to continue it as Jimmy said. So with that, I'll stop and ask you if you have any questions.
Alan, I have a question about the hotel motel tax. There was a good bit of discussion in this last legislative session in Nashville about hotel motel taxes across the state. There seemed to be a move underway that the local communities could go up there and ask for a 5% hotel motel tax for economic development in their communities. And if your state representative presented it, passed immediately. There's a move underway, it seems to be now in the legislature, where everybody in the whole legislative group wants to vote on it, and many have seemed to be opposed to something that's going on in other communities. As I understand it, the discussion was to make the hotel motel tax strictly for tourism, and there was a strong move underway to describe it in that manner. If we use it for tourism and economic development.
Yes, sir.
And if that should come about, are you familiar with that, or have any
I have heard
knowledge
about some
it?
of it, yeah.
What would that do to us as far as our motel tax funding for economic development and tourism in this county?
Well, if it becomes a state mandate that it has to be used for tourism, obviously.
Well, is it a statute now that that's what it has to be used for, the motel tax, for economic development? Is that a statute?
I don't think it's tourism only.
Okay.
And historically, I think this is my 7th time to come before the board. We've always had more of an emphasis in our budget, as you can see, on marketing and recruitment for industry than for tourism.
Yeah.
Now, in some parts of the state where there's a lot of tourism, you could see where folks in that part of the state might want the emphasis to be on tourism if they have a strong tourism draw in their area. We have a more balanced approach, but ours is more on the side of economic development, and I would hope that's where we can keep it. Like I said, we've done more in recent years toward tourism and support for some of these things that have now come online than we've ever done in the past.
We just need to keep our eyes on that, what
Right.
they're doing up there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anybody? Alan, thank you for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Appreciate
Turn it
your
back over
work,
to-
the Chamber's work, and all that you do for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
The first item I'd like for y'all to consider and vote on tonight is the budget. I believe you have a copy of it in front of you. We estimate that tourism and economic development will produce about $235,000 in revenue. The total expenses for tourism and economic development is $487,750. Shows a net loss of $252,750, and this net loss is the money that will come out of the Chamber's budget as their share of tourism and economic development. Any questions?
It was included in your agenda. Any questions about the budget?
So move we approve.
Motion from Bob Kirk to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Dennis Moody. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
The next item is reaffirming the contractual agreement between the Chamber and the city. I think the mayor and Alan's been working on this. I think the only change is the date, and it's the same as it was in the previous 2 years. Got any questions about the contract?
It's a 2-year contract effective July 1 of this year for the next 2 years. We've done that
Yeah.
for many times, 7 times you've been here, so about 14 years, right?
25 years, I think, in
Right,
total.
right. Any questions about the contract? Entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
A motion from Robert Taylor Jr. Is there a second? Second. Second from Mike Morgan. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Mayor.
And thank you for you other chamber members attending tonight and your support and all that you do for the chamber and our community. Next item on the agenda is 4th of July Community Response Plan. Police Chief Steve Isbell. Chief.
Thank you. You'll notice on your agenda, it says Community Response Plan. It's not just the police department's response plan, it's the community's plan because we need the community's help to have a safe holiday weekend. Just to recap last year's activity, the 4th of July night has become quite a challenge for us over the years. And I want to emphasize that this has been some isolated areas. It's not city-wide that we've had the outbreak of some violence and things of that nature. And I'll hit on that in a few minutes. Last year, for a 24-hour period, starting on July the 4th, ending on July the 5th, 251 calls for service, with 79 of those being noise complaints. In a previous weekend, same year, we averaged 171 calls for service with 5 noise complaints. So you see the increase in calls for service. There were 25 arrests made during that 24-hour period, with 46 charges being filed. There would have been many more arrests had we had the personnel to deal with it last year. Officers had all that they could manage. We will average 6 to 9 arrests a day, and on the weekend those numbers will usually double. Multiple arrests are expected. Last year, a number of out-of-town individuals were identified whose sole purpose is to come into our city and create havoc and try to hurt our police officers. And we have a few of those that live inside the city that have that same purpose. Officers were fired upon by mortar rounds, resulting in damaged patrol cars where large crowds had gathered. Large crowds also surrounded officers at various times, separating officers, creating a very dangerous situation for our police officers. It's very difficult when you have 300 to 400 plus in a crowd, near riot conditions, firing these rounds, to determine what is actual gunfire and what is fireworks. So it's a very challenging situation for us. This year, we will have at least 30 officers working during the peak hours with mandatory 12-hour shifts, and all time off has been canceled. We will operate with 2 officer units at all times. We'll have deployment teams who will be identified and will be deployed into the hot zones. And again, I want to emphasize that these are isolated areas that we're dealing with. It's not widespread citywide, but these are some isolated areas that we want to put all of our resources in and concentrate on this. We'll have intake teams and evidence technicians here. It's not as simple as taking someone's fireworks and putting them in the trunk of our car. There's accreditation standards. We can't haul around those type of items in our cars. When you make arrests, it takes time, but we want to put our officers back on the streets, so we'll have intake teams and evidence technicians that will collect all this information so our officers can get back on the street and deal with the problems. I will point out, of course, the city ordinance is pretty clear. Discharging of fireworks are illegal. There's also Tennessee state law that covers it is unlawful to explode or ignite fireworks within 600 feet of any church, hospital, or public school. No person shall ignite or discharge fireworks from a motor vehicle while within, nor shall any person place or throw any ignited article of fireworks into or at motor vehicles or at or near any person or group of people, which was happening last year. That would be a state charge, misdemeanor. If someone is injured, obviously, then that would be upgraded to assault, potentially aggravated assault, which you would have a felony. The community's assistance is much needed. Again, the ordinance is clear. Fireworks are illegal in the city limits of Dyersburg. And we ask that people be responsible. Vast majority of people want to celebrate that night safely and be with their families. I get that, but the ordinance is the ordinance. And if those individuals who are not in these troubled areas are discharging fireworks, we get a call for service, neighbors call in and complain, we're going to have to respond. When we have to respond to these calls, that's pulling my officers out of these target areas where they're needed, because at the end of the night, I want my guys going home and my ladies going home to their families. So we ask the public's assistance with this, honor the city ordinance and help us out. The State Gazette will run the ordinance for us, and this TCA, they've agreed to do that. We'll do that over the next few days, and just ask that our community help us out on this. Any questions?
I certainly hope we get cooperation, because it could be so dangerous for your officers not knowing the difference between firecrackers and firepower. And I know what you went through last year. Were you in charge last year?
I had just returned from the FBI Academy, and
Yeah.
I was I was the assistant chief and the interim chief at that point.
I like the way you're planning it out this year, and getting it out to the public in sufficient time so that people understand it's against the ordinance to shoot fireworks in the city of Dyersburg.
Yes, sir.
And how dangerous it could be, and we need to do everything we can to honor that ordinance.
Yes, sir.
For the safety of our citizens and our policemen. And thank you for putting a good plan into place. And I think you'll get backing from this board, I know. Thank you, Will.
What were the most charges last year?
Everything from disorderly conduct to assaults, things of that nature. A number of individuals would fire upon the officers and run, and that's where officers would get separated, cars would get surrounded, and it got pretty rough. Our team did a fantastic job with the resources that they had in keeping that under control the best they could, and we got through that night safely. And it's not just about police officers. These hot zones, as I will say, there are residents that live in these neighborhoods that are there celebrating the 4th of July with their family and friends, and then for this mob-type mentality to move into their community, and they were a victim of this just like the police were. So we take that very seriously, and we will be there to protect our citizens in these areas as well.
I got a question. You know, take myself, for instance, when my children are smaller, and I know there are parents out there that have small children that are going to shoot off some fireworks. Is it kind of like what am I looking for here? A zero tolerance type
Yes, sir.
deal?
Yes, sir.
They need to know that too.
Absolutely. Zero tolerance. We're going to be fair and consistent in our enforcement. Last year, the calls were coming in so fast, and all of our resources were tied up in this area where all the problems were. There were actually calls for police service that were going unanswered because we just simply didn't have the personnel to deal with it. We could not leave that area for fear of officers getting injured or a resident getting injured. And like I said, it's a very good point. The individual that wants to go out with a sparkler with their 5 or 6 year old child, they mean no harm, and I get that. But the ordinance even covers that, and it's not allowed. And I'm asking that residents honor this ordinance so that we're not tying up police resources to go deal with a parent that has a 5-year-old child with sparklers. That's all we're asking.
Chief, could we, I see the number of Tennessee Highway Patrol officers patrolling some of our streets in the city of Dyersburg, and writing tickets and checking for seatbelt violations and that sort of thing. Could we get any assistance that night from the THP since they want to come in and help us all the time?
We certainly could, and we have a contingent plan. We are involved with the West Tennessee Violent Crime and Drug Task Force, who have agents all over, and a simple phone call to these individuals, and they would be here for us. We feel that we have a good plan for this night, and this 12-hour shift will go throughout the weekend. It will be, we're just going to play it by ear to see how things go. In times past, the biggest problem has been on the night of 4th of July, and they're obviously busy for the next couple of days, and with the 4th falling on weekend, we fully anticipate a pretty active weekend.
What day is it for? What day is it for?
Saturday.
Saturday. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the chief? Let me mention one thing, since we're talking about fireworks, of course. We get a little kickback, because the city of Dyersburg has 4th of July fireworks show. Let me explain that just a little bit. That's something that the city of Dyersburg has done for many, many years. We're going to do it again this year on July 4th, Saturday night. We have to get approval from the State of Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance. We have to get a permit for that. We have somebody that's been to class that's a registered pyrotechnician. We have to provide a diagram of the area, the fallout zone. We have to provide insurance. We get a permit from the state to do that. And everybody up the ladder, I guess, signs off on that. So we're going to do that again. We're going to follow the law and do what the state asks us to do to provide a family type event for the folks in our community. That will be again July 4th around 9 or 9:15. We'll be at Dyer County Fairgrounds. So that's the difference. We're doing it legally, and we're glad to do that for the folks in our community. A lot of folks here support that and make contributions to it. It's not an inexpensive deal. It's fairly expensive, but we want to continue to do that. So that's how we do that, if somebody has any questions. Any other questions of the chief? Thank you, Chief. I appreciate your proactive response and planning for this, and appreciate all that you do and all that the men and women do of the Dyersburg Police Department. Thank you. Hope we have a safe night and a safe weekend. Next item on the agenda is report from Alderman Bob Kirk.
I don't have anything, Mayor. It surprises you, doesn't it?
Yes, sir, it does. Bill Eskew,
I don't have anything.
Mr. Glover.
A couple of little items. Mr. Roy's not here tonight, but I'd like to thank him and the street department. They've been working on 2 big drains. They had to go through a pool being emptied into that drain while they were working on it, plus thunder showers. And he helped us Saturday at last minute notice on the Juneteenth, getting us some dirt. So he's working overtime at this time, and I thank him for that. Plus, on Frank Maynard, the new pavement, where he's not having to go out and fill those holes and us bouncing across it. So the pavement's there. Also, on the Juneteenth, got a lot of compliments when I went out Saturday about the recreation center there, Future City, and how it upgraded. Looked great. They were very complimentary of, I see Andy in the back, and his crew. And I saw a lot of them beating dust out there with the tractor and doing a lot of things, getting ready. The pool was going, and as I was by there today, the pool was still open, a little wading pool there. Several people there, so it is active and looks nice out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Mike?
I have nothing.
Dennis?
Mayor, for the people that are watching this, I know that y'all have been staying busy trying to get some of these lots mowed, and I know there's one on West Wheeler we've really had a time with. We understand it's in foreclosure.
Yes, sir.
And possibly will be mowed pretty soon, one way or the other. And remind people, if there are lots in your area that need to be mowed, to just call 311, report it. And let's see, also, to Alderman Bill Eskew, good luck in blowing out all those candles on your birthday cake. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Carolyn?
No report.
Robert?
I don't have anything.
One thing I want to mention is last meeting I announced that we received another CDBG grant, 2011 CDBG grant. We advertised that. This board approved that contract, and now this is a public notice that we provided last week, but I just want to mention it here. Public notice 2011 CDBG Disaster Recovery Grant. City of Dyersburg will hold a public meeting on June 18th, 2015 at 4 p.m. at Dyersburg City Hall. The purpose of this meeting is to present information to the public on the 2011 Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program. Concerned citizens are encouraged to attend and comment on the program activities. So I just want to mention that, and I think I gave each alderman and alderwoman a copy of this as well. With that, we appreciate your attendance, and we're adjourned.